I think we can start. Mr. Mkhize will join. Good afternoon to everyone on the platform and to the parties that applied for the trading licenses as well as the export and export licenses. This is the public hearing for 4 applications that we have on the roll for today's hearing. The parties or the applications that are before us and that are going to be heard today is the Empower Trading import and export license application, the Lira Energy Trading Pty Ltd, the Energy Market SA Pty Ltd, and the last one that we're going to hear today is the application for Solar Trade Co. Pty Ltd. Good afternoon again, and welcome to the NERSA public hearing held today, the 28th of May, 2025. And my name is Nomfundo Maseti. I am a member of the Electricity Subcommittee and chairing that committee, and I will be presiding for today's proceedings. With me today, I am joined by my colleagues, Ms. Tembeka Semane, who is the member of the Energy Regulator, the chairperson of the Finance Committee of the Energy Regulator, and is also the member of the Electricity Subcommittee. Madam Semane, may you please activate your camera and convey your greetings.
Afternoon, Madam Maseti. I'll skip the camera, ma'am. I've already taken off my jacket and hairstyles. I normally don't work afternoons. Greetings to you and to our NERSA colleagues and members of the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam Semane. The other colleague that has joined me in this hearing is Mr. Musu Vukile Mkhize, who is the member or full-time member primarily responsible for petroleum pipelines. He is also the member of the Electricity Subcommittee. Mr. Mkhize, may you please activate your camera and do your greetings.
Greetings to Chairperson and all in attendance, as well as the various members of the public that are following us through the various live streaming platforms. Unfortunately, my camera is not activated. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Just to start with regards to today's public hearing, as I indicated earlier on, the matters on the roll, we've got about 4 matters that are going to be heard today. And I would like to also indicate that today's hearing is held in accordance with the National Energy Regulator Act of 2004, of which Act requires the energy regulator to give the affected parties an opportunity to present their views and evidence with regards to the matters that are before the energy regulator for a decision. Today's hearing is also held and is guided by the NERSA rules for public hearings. And before I get to the summary of those rules, I do want to state on record that the public hearings for all of these matters were published in various newspapers, as well as on the NERSA website, as well as on the social media platforms of NERSA, being Facebook and X, which is formerly Twitter. Just to summarize the rules for this public hearing, all parties that are going to make their presentations will be required to do so under oath, and only the members of the energy regulator are required to ask questions to the presenters. However, if there are members of the public that would like to get clarification from the presenters, they may write their questions and send them to public hearings at nersa.org.za. And Mr. Walter Mabunda will put down that email address, and he is also going to monitor it closely so that he can bring to our attention any question that has been put through that email address, and we will then decide how to put those questions to the presenters. I would like to also indicate that in terms of information that the parties may consider to be confidential but would like to provide a clarification to the panel today, the parties are requested to notify us should there be such confidential information. The members of the panel will then decide whether they still want to hear that information. And if they do, we may now decide to clear the room. And in this case, we may just stand down the hearing so that we can only have the parties as well as NERSA to hear that confidential information. Just to indicate that we have received a request from the applicants to do the presentations, and we've allocated 20 minutes for the presentations. Just in terms of the housekeeping, it is important just to indicate that today's gathering is recorded by the and that the official record that is recorded by the microphones will be the official record of this meeting. I would like to also just request that the parties and everyone on the platform, if you can kindly switch off your cell phone so that it does not ring and disrupt the proceedings of the hearing. And if you can kindly also utilize the chat facility in a responsible way. And thirdly, would like to also request you that you mute your mic so that it does not interrupt us. And the last thing that we would like to request you is that please keep your video off. It will only be the presenters that will be required to activate their videos only at the time when they are doing their presentations. So the first matter on the roll that I would like to now consider is the NPower Trading application for import and export license application. That is in terms of the I'm just reading from Walter, in terms of the today's program. So may I then have the representative from NPower Trading who is going to do the presentation.
Good afternoon, Chair.
Good afternoon, Mr. BT. May you please raise your right hand if you don't have any objection in taking the oath or an affirmation?
I have no objection. Chair, just a quick point. On our side, we have a bit of an echo, which I'm just resolving. Thank you.
Yes,
I think that's
I can hear that.
Apologies for that. Sure, here's my hand. Right hand risen, no objection.
All right, thank you very much. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to provide to this panel today is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, Chair, I solemnly declare that it is the whole truth and the full truth.
Thank you very much. Please state your name and your designation at NPower Trading.
Thanks. My name is James Beattie, and I'm the CEO of NPower Trading. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You may start with your presentation. You may beam it. If you have any challenges, please indicate. We can also ask Mr. Mabunda to assist.
Many thanks, Chair. I was just, before we quickly go into it, is it possible to also swear in one of my colleagues who's likely to help contribute during the presentation, just to get that administration out of the way?
Okay, that will be fine. You may deactivate your camera so that we can have your colleague to be sworn in.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm, through the Chair, going to ask Mutinta Linda to also swear in. And thank you. I'm turning my mic and camera off now.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Mutinta Lunda. I am ready to be sworn in.
Thank you very much. May you please raise your right hand, keep it raised. All right. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to provide to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you. May you please state your name and your designation at N-Power Trading for the record.
For the record, my name is Mutinta Lunda. I am an energy markets expert at N-Power Trading South Africa.
Thank you very much. You may then start with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm just going to present on my screen now. Okay. Hopefully this works first time. Right. Is that legible and visible, Chair?
Yes, it is visible and it is on presentation mode. You may commence with your presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. First of all, also thank you very much to you, Chair, and to the regulatory members for the opportunity to present our import-export license today. It's been a long journey, which we'll discuss in the presentation, but firstly, also just wanted to say thank you up front. So moving into the presentation itself, our agenda is as cited on the screen, obviously. We'll first be giving a quick recap of N-Power Trading and some of our progress to date with our national trading license that was issued to N-Power in 2022. Then specifically talk to our import-export project and the fundamentals of that project, some of the benefits that we see from the project and import-export through diversification of generation for South Africa, the role of trading, international trading, so specifically import and export, and how that fits into our ESI, following on from further benefits on cross-border, and then finally ending with what we see as very strong positive momentum in the market and our conclusion. So moving on to the recap of N-Power Trading, we're excited to say, and again, thank the regulator for its decision in February 2022 with issuing us with our electricity trading license nationally. We were the second licensed trader after PowerX, as you're aware, and humbly say that we've made quite a lot of progress since then. I think some key ones have actually been activating and supporting supply and trading of electricity in the municipalities of both George and Cape Town. We started in George trading in 2022, just after we had our license, and more recently in the city of Cape Town as part of the pilot project where we supply Shoprite checkers, and obviously an exciting photo of us with the Mayor of Cape Town earlier this year. So we look forward to continuing to deliver these energy solutions in wider municipalities as well in the country, where we have an active process underway to supply in those municipalities. We are obviously and still continue to be a BEE level 4 contributor. We have a very strong focus on BEE and remain compliant at all times, and look forward to building out on that pillar as we progress forward with N-Power Trading's progress and development. Just to reiterate some of our key milestones that we think are important to mention to the regulators since issuing us with our license. Of course, one of them is the reaching financial close for our milestone first large utility scale transaction, where we source electrons and supply from the Solar Africa Energy asset under construction in Dar, which is building up to 1,000 megawatt asset in the Karoo. And on the other side, supplying the national company of SAPI, which is an important transaction for us as a catalytic progress for N-Power Trading. That's utility scale as well. Beyond that, we have also been awarded preferred bidder in a number of other processes, including with multi blue chip companies in South Africa. Again, reiterating, we are active also in the municipal space trading currently now in Cape Town and George, and have learned a lot of operational expertise in doing that, and have, we think humbly say, helped open up the market for a lot of other players too. Important for this context of the application is We've also got an MOU signed with a sister company of ours, which is called Enterprise Power DRC. That's an active SAP member and has been trading utility scale cross-border flows on the SAP market as of August 2023. So that they bring a wealth of experience and operational know-how into our system that we have been using for this application as well. Moving to the next slide. Specific to our application with regards to import-export, I think it's very important that at the time we applied, or rather put this trade and transaction together, we were in the height of load shedding, stage 6, if not even potentially higher than that as of around 2 years ago. And so we were searching for solutions to try and help alleviate some of the crisis that was at its real peak at the time. And so we looked at neighboring countries, and of course, Zambia was a logical fit, being its resource of hydro that's available, and of course, its experience with trading in that market. And so we put in place a number of agreements. We have a generation power purchase agreement signed after a long process with a generator in Zambia. We have wheeling agreements signed both with ZESCO in Zambia and the neighboring country of Zimbabwe, ZETDC. We also have regulatory approval from ERA in Zambia, and as well as the requisite regulatory approval in Zimbabwe as well. So the wheeling path and electrons and supply have been secured all the way from the asset in Zambia to the border of South Africa, which is a very powerful, we think, output that we've achieved that's taken a long time. Actually, it's taken 3 years worth of work for us to get here. And so we're proud of that. Of course, on the final leg or piece in the puzzle has been essentially having this import-export license awarded to us. We've worked, of course, with the NTCSA as well as with Eskom, and have the requisite pro forma system operation agreement draft from them, and are requesting the regulators' support with finalizing this final leg of the transaction. Thank you. Moving on to just diversification of generation. Again, just to elaborate on some of the benefits, it's important to mention that, of course, South Africa is blessed with many, many things, but we don't have a huge amount of water supply, and hydro generation isn't an ample resource in our country. There are some pockets of hydro, but not huge amounts. And so, what this solution avails, or import exports, is it does produce or increase the availability of alternative sources of generation. Hydro is interesting because, of course, we'll be able to deliver more peak energy and more baseload renewable energy to customers in South Africa. So you're helping alleviate load shedding risks and issues, but you're also helping to, the value proposition is you're helping to avail both peak energy and baseload renewable energy to our local market, which we think is important for customers in South Africa. So we're seeking to alleviate pressure on the national grid by enhancing more supply on the network, being possible, acts as a form of redundancy or backup if we do have constrained supply, from risk scenarios playing out. We have more hydropower potential alongside other energy as well. And of course, most importantly, what this does is it provides customers with further choice, enabling them to choose across different resources, and of course, innovative solutions to help increase reliability and potentially even reduce costs of their electricity as well. So we welcome and promote healthy market competition in line with what's been ratified by Parliament via the ERA, and that the regulator we obviously does support as well. So moving on to the next slide and tying this together, what is the role of international trading, or as we see it in the electricity supply industry of South Africa? Again, what's important is the ERA and implementation of that ERA, which has taken a long time and been ratified by our Parliament. It's essential for there to be competition in our market and for these market reforms to be implemented. And international trading will facilitate this. It'll provide customers with more choice, different resources, the ability to feel safe and secure if there's risk scenarios playing out by more availability of supply potential or backup. And so that all reduces the burden on customers. We also think there's the potential for there to be a reduced burden on the fiscus of South Africa as well, because this increased cross-border trade and flow will result in potential benefits to the various state enterprises via wheeling fees being paid and all sorts of other fees, as well as generating improvement in the GDP outlook for the marketplace. Again, to reiterate, what that does result in is benefits to customers across the value chain, both on wholesale markets as well as down into municipal market space as well, as diversification of supply becomes possible. We also think important as the electricity market matures, that IPPs also will have an increased benefit of alternative offtake supply for cross-border flows. So that increases the potential for GDP, it enhances the bankability potential in the market and for IPPs to build out, and therefore increases long-run supply for our country as well, we believe. Again, to reiterate, cross-border trading, I think some of it's probably echoed in the previous slide, but it allows for just a general optimization of the whole region. I think what's important as well is what we can do for the domestic customers is provide them with risk spreading solutions, diversification of supply. Importantly, all of this feeds into what our country is seeking to do, which is enhance regional collaboration and integration. So it's important for our country and our government to be seen as leaders as well as regulatory leaders in the SADC region. This type of cross-border flows and regional trade certainly will underpin and support that. So we believe that all of this integration is both meaningful for GDP uplifting, but also for South Africa to be seen in the region as a leader of the region, as it has been for a long time. Again, moving on to what I personally believe is very exciting, and of course NPower overall believes is very exciting momentum in the market. We've been in the market since its earlier days, and what we see has been really encouraging. To reiterate, just the ratification of the ERA after so many years of debate at parliamentary level and at public scrutiny level as well has finally occurred. We're seeing NERSA's continued crucial role in overseeing fair and transparent access to the network. We applaud NERSA's licensing of some of our competitors, as well as in terms of the import-export scope, the NTCSA, as well as our market peer, Africa Greenco. We think that progress is really important in the market and continue to welcome that and thank the regulator for that. Finally, in conclusion of our presentation, we urge the regulator to maintain its support of progress and transparent licensing approach. It's also, we support the enabling of new entrants into the market to continue to foster a trading landscape. And we again agree with the collaboration approach that it's very important to unlock both growth and GDP in the region by facilitating international trade from new entrants into the market being allowed. We're ready to play our part. And of course, in a regulatory compliant fashion, as we always have done. And we thank you again, the regulator, the public, and all stakeholders for the opportunity to present to you today. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to make sure that you do have. Should there be questions, you do have a piece of paper and a pen just to take down all the questions that will be coming from the members and then provide your responses. Members, I would like to invite you to now put your questions to NPower Trading. By show of hands, members, if you have questions to ask. Mr. Mkhize?
Yes, I would just like to check with you, Chair, and thanks to the presenter, thanks to yourself for the opportunity. In terms of where there's cross-border metering involved for accurate power management and reconciliation, as well as energy balancing, how would you ensure that the access to metering? And then what mechanism would also be put in place to prevent exceedances of reserve capacity, and how would penalties for such exceedances be managed? And then in terms of the tariff structure, how will it cater for any subsidies to Eskom? And also just your reflection on the issue of subsidies in South Africa to ensure fair competition with Eskom. And then just overall, in terms of the regulatory framework and policies for import, export, etc., what would you then do to ensure alignment and compliance as well as with other government policies? I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize, for those questions. Just from my side, I just want to understand, just in terms of ensuring that when we license, we are certain that there are certain arrangements that have been made to enable the export as well as the importation activities. Now, the first one that I would like to understand is the arrangements that Empower Trading has made with SAP insofar as the import and the export license is concerned. Are there any arrangements, interactions that you've had with SAP? And can you please apprise us of those arrangements that you have made? That's the first question. The second one that I would like to put to you are the concerns and objections that were presented to us by Eskom as well as NTCSA. I heard you say that there are some drafts documents in terms of the system use, but there are certain concerns that are raised. May you please enlighten us during your interactions as to what are the concerns and how did you address the concerns raised by NTCSA as well as Eskom? And those really deal with issues of the balancing rules, for instance. How is this, what would you like to, what submissions are you making before the regulator? Insofar as those concerns are concerned, or the objections are concerned from NTCSA as well as Eskom. So that's the second question. The third question that I would like to raise is it relates to the balancing agreements that may be necessary to be put in place, especially under the especially for purposes of managing the over as well as the under delivery of power in cross-border transactions. So it is something that also as the regulator, we may want to make sure that we exercise our oversight on that. So I just want to find out about those agreements. Have you discussed those? Have you, is it something that you believe the regulator needs to consider as part of its evaluation of this application to make sure that everything that needs to be in place to create a conducive environment for the export and import activities are all in place, and that there will be fairness and also as the regulator to be to enable to exercise oversight in terms of managing those overs and under delivery of power during the cross-border transactions. And the last question really for me is on the issue of risk mitigation. So how will you mitigate risk associated with inadvertent energy flow and other cross-border trade risk? That's the last question from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair and regulatory members. I think for us to just move on one of the first questions, I'll hand over for efficiency to Mutinta to address the SAP the SAP question that you raised. So in terms of aligning and compliance with the SAP and what arrangements we have with the SAP, I think that's a nice way for us to start. Some of the follow-up questions, I believe, were quite interrelated in terms of operational questions with respect to balancing and agreement. So if that's okay with you, Chair, for Mutinta to answer the SAP question first.
Yes, that is in order. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Good afternoon once again, Chair. I don't know if you require my camera to be on, or I may proceed.
No, you may respond. It's not necessary.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding SAP, we had made an application in early 2023 for a category that SAP considers conditional membership. So we went through the entire application process, and at the time, we had met all the requirements that were listed as part of the application. But when SAP went and deliberated on the issue, their response to us was that they required us to have some form of a import permission from the regulator. So it then became basically a chicken and egg situation. We thought that it would be easier to become a member and then come to you and apply for an export license. They were of the view that we must first have the export license before we could make an application for conditional membership. Subsequent to that, we got in touch with the regulator. We actually wrote a letter informing the regulator of the decision of SAP, and this has led to where we are today. The intention, obviously, is to recognize that if we become a SAP member, and NTCSA also, who would be our partner in terms of balancing and structuring the transactions at the border, would also be a SAP member. It makes it easier to export or import power, whichever the direction of flow power is going, because then the rules of SAP also begin to apply. But whether we're a member or not, our understanding is that NTCSA's obligations with regards to how SAP transactions are conducted would still apply. But to answer your question, we have spoken to SAP. We have made an application. They have made it clear to us that as soon as we get our export license, they will grant us the conditional membership. And the only thing that would be outstanding for full membership is when we have the balancing agreement in place with NTCSA. So we're already in those engagements, and we hope to conclude them as soon as this process is done. Also, if I may touch on the issue of, if I may proceed, Chair, if that's okay.
Yes, you may proceed, but may you enlighten us with regards to the balancing agreement with NTCSA. If you can also just touch on that. Where is that? What is the progress? And how will the application that we are considering today, how will that, I just need the timing. What comes first, really, so that we are comfortable as the regulator that everything that needs to be in place, it is in place. That for us is very important because we do want to make sure that as part of our role that the trading space and the trading environment is conducive to the new players that want to enter into the market. So we may also want to see if those balancing agreements are in place, even if then they are not finalized, so that at least we can see that the terms of such agreements are conducive to the environment that is competitive, an environment that is not going to be an entry deterrent or make it difficult for the export or the import activities to take place. So though that's the comfort that the regulator would like to have. So we would like you to take us through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'll defer to James on this one. Thank you.
Thank you, Mutinta. That's also why I switched the camera on. Chair, we absolutely agree with you 100%. And I think it's very important to mention that the balancing agreement is contained in the system operations agreement that we actually have in place. So we're able to share that with the regulator as needed, but it is at the moment in a heads of terms phase, similar to what we understand has been provided to competitors of ours. And so we're looking forward to finalizing that agreement as quickly as we can and welcome any support that we can receive from the regulator in achieving that outcome. But to be clear, all of the balancing services are actually contained in that heads of terms under the SOA. So I think it's important to mention that we do have that. I think a lot of the other questions that have also been tabled are very much in line with this more operational work stream and flow. And so a lot of that data is in that agreement that we have.
All right, thank you very much. You may proceed with the rest of the questions.
No problem. So in terms of I've noted the questions down. So tariff structure catering for any subsidies to Eskom. Very good question, of course. So with respect to currently Eskom's framework only charges electrification subsidies for Eskom's customers right now. So there's no reason why, or we believe, why the Department of Energy and Electricity with NERSA can't impose cross subsidies at, for instance, transmission level to customers so that everyone pays equitably. That's our in-house view, and I've made a note of that. We're very happy to work towards that goal and with the regulator and various stakeholders to implement a fair and an equitable marketplace as always. And we're happy to also follow up with response in writing with further clarification and detail thereon.
Thank you very much. You may please proceed with the others. We will, if there is any follow-up, we will ask the follow-up questions. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chair. Appreciate that. The next question I've noted down is, in terms of the framework and policies, what do we need to ensure alignment and compliance with other government policies? Obviously, there's an established relationship that we already have with ZETDC, so that's the utility in Zimbabwe that we've been working with for a number of years, as well as ZESCO in Zambia. That's currently where Mutinta also is and is based. And we will continue to ensure full and complete compliance with those utilities as well as their regulators. I think important to mention as well is that as part of this process, we've also had a lot of learnings and understandings from, for example, balancing services and other operational matters that have been learned in neighboring countries that we would welcome working with the regulator locally and the stakeholders locally to bring that experience to the fore. And we will remain compliant with all their requirements as we have done from the start. Thank you. Moving on to the next question I've noted here. Are there any concerns and objections that were presented to us during this process? There were some draft documents noted, etc. So, absolutely, in response to some of the comments that the regulator has seen that came in quite recently, we noted that these comments were not submitted during the objection period itself. They were received very recently. I think even as early as last week. We're considering these comments in detail, and we request your indulgence to just provide us our response in writing so that we have the opportunity to assess them carefully and respond in a detailed manner to the regulator's request, if that's possible.
Yes, thank you. If you can be able to provide that response in the next 7 days from today. Thank you very much.
Understood, Chair. We're working towards that end. Obviously, a lot of detailed work, and we will respond to you in a timely fashion. Moving on to a follow-on question. I'm just noting here, any over and under delivery of power into cross-border transactions, you just want to ensure that there's sufficient oversight and want to ensure fairness in the market. So I've noted down that currently there is some overlap in I think one or two of the regulators questioning. I think this is talking to a similar point around balancing. Again, noted in the systems operations agreement that we have a draft of all balancing matters are catered for inside that agreement itself. And so we look forward to working with NTCSA and with the parties to finalising that agreement, and we'll also respond in a comprehensive manner post the hearing to any questions that have been recorded, and we will respond as such.
Do you think that such agreement should be in place before we take the decision on licensing, so that we are comfortable? I just want to check from your side, and also just as part of some of the concerns that were raised.
I understand, Chair. My personal opinion is that I don't think it's required. I think that if we look at our experience in the neighboring markets as well, where the agreements that we've entered into have shown significant technical capacity to reach the desired outcomes, we think that, you know, we have enough data to actually finalize this piece of the puzzle. There's enough comfort in the market. The NTCSA has been supportive of import-export. We've obviously got you know, other licenses of a similar nature being issued to other participants with the same level of detail provided. We think that our proven track record, the enormous progress that's been built up in the market already demonstrates our capacity to deliver. And we welcome working with the regulator, with the NTCSA, on any forward process that's required in delivering this in implementation. We think that it's the right call by the regulator to be on the side of making progress, and we think that this is the right decision to take, obviously, on our side. So short answer would be, I think we have enough available and in place to make that decision already. That's certainly in Power Trading's view.
All right, thank you very much. You may then touch on the other questions that you have not answered yet.
No problem. Just looking through the list. I think the fair competition question, that was one that we haven't touched on to just yet. I'm just looking through my notes. So yes, how do we ensure fair competition with Eskom? Obviously, in terms of balancing operations associated with this transaction, we'd like to note that it's taken into account in the systems operation agreement that we have a heads of term signed with NTCSA. We look forward to working with the regulator and yourself in that, or on that, and to further progress that. In terms of competition specifically as well with other traders, we compete with all traders, as well as the licensed entity of Eskom that is also a trader itself. And this is provided for and catered for in the ERA bill that's been ratified in Parliament. So, and in line with our trading license. So we comply with all laws, regulations, just like everyone else in the market. And we look forward to continuing to do so and to fostering competition. We obviously at this moment still remain extremely small when compared to Eskom, and are by no means a dominant player or someone that we view should be, you know, exerting too much pressure on Eskom at this stage in time. We have a good working relationship with Eskom. Of course, we've spent a lot of years working together. We have meetings with them on a regular basis and welcome that relationship. I think it's fair to say that we're understanding how to coexist all together, and the market is maturing, and we welcome that progress in the market. So I would say that that's a response to the competition point, Chair.
Thank you very much. Do you have any other thing that you have not touched on? From my side, it seems you have responded to all the questions, but if I missed some, please, you are free to respond.
Chair, thank you very much. As far as I've noted them down, I see that we've responded to the questions, and if there's anything post that we haven't addressed, we've got this recording and we will respond in detail in follow-up questions. I do notice there is a hand up from another regulatory member, Chair.
Yes, just before that, still on the issues with NTCSA, because you said that some of the issues of concern that they have raised outside of the objection period you have not applied yourself thoroughly to those, and you will provide a response in writing. We take note of that. But just to check whether you have concluded any use of system agreements with NTCSA, if you can, just enlighten us on that, if you have signed any use of system agreements with them, and also just on the issues of capacity allocation, that has been concluded with the NTCSA or ESCOM's distribution. As you know, that with regards to the access to the grid, that still lies with the ESCOM distribution.
Thank you very much,
Chair. Can you please take
Sure.
note of those so that
Yeah.
I can allow Mr. Mkhize to come in? Mr. Mkhize?
I think by and large, I'm covered by the fact that they are going to provide a written responses to questions raised today. But I would also request that in terms of the concerns raised by NTCSA, they then ensure that they include their responses thereto, as well as maybe progress around whatever negotiations or agreements that are being entered into with NTCSA. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May you please respond, Mr. Bitt?
Absolutely, Chair. So first of all, I think coming back to your questions, which again were of an operational nature, I think it's important again that those matters are catered for in the SOA, so in the Systems Operation Agreement that we have in draft, the heads of terms with the NTCSA. So capacity allocation included is also catered for in that agreement. Progress around agreements with the NTCSA and the follow-up question will absolutely look forward to keeping the regulator updated in terms of progress on that side. And we will furnish the regulator with the detailed updates as requested in the follow-up answers we provide to the regulator, as well as alongside all the other matters that have been asked. So we look forward to giving you that detail and working with the regulator and the various parties in the process.
All right, thank you very much. I think we are done with our questions, and we look forward to your written responses and further clarification on the questions that we have already asked. And we thank you for your time, and we thank you for the presentation that you have made before us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chair, and to the rest of the regulatory members. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members, we are now moving on to take a presentation from, Lira Energy Trading. We've got Skatek to present on behalf of Lira Energy Trading.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. This is Gavin de Vos on behalf of Lira Energy Trading.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I see that there are 3 people. I'm not sure if everyone is going to do the presentation, but may I start with you, Mr. de Vos? May you please raise your right hand?
Raising my right hand.
Thank you. Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to provide to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I declare that the evidence I'm going to provide to the panel is the truth and the whole truth.
Thank you. May you please state your name and your designation? I'm not sure if it's from Lira Trading or from Skatek.
So my name is Gavin de Vos. I'm the head of Lira Energy, and I'm a director of Lira Energy Trading.
Thank you very much. Thank you. May we go to the next one, please? Fuyokas Kakaza.
May I request that Mohammed Munshi, also director of Lira Energy Trading, is the next member to take the oath.
Okay. May we then can others, because I'm getting confused, can others just switch off their cameras so that we can get Mohammed?
Hi, Chair.
Okay, I'm just waiting. All right. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to provide to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
Yes, I so declare.
Thank you. Please state your name and your designation at Lyra Energy Trading.
Yes, my name is Mohammed Munshi and I'm a director at Lyra Energy Trading.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone
Thank
that
you.
we still need? Okay. Is there another colleague that is going to be part of the presentation?
No, it will just be myself and Eben. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. Please proceed then with your presentation.
Sorry, Eben, I think you're on mute.
Thanks, Mohammed. Yeah, good afternoon, and well, thanks to the NERSA Electricity Subcommittee for hosting this public hearing and the opportunity for Lyra Energy Trading to present its trading license application. Then also good afternoon to the members of the public attending. By way of introduction, some context of Lyra Energy Trading, and starting with the parent company of Lyra Energy Trading is Lyra Energy, which was constituted in 2023 with the aim and ambition to participate in South Africa's evolving energy sector. It's a partnership between, I must say, experienced private power supply participants in the market, Scatec being a Norwegian-listed renewable energy solutions provider with a specific focus on emerging markets, and then Standard Infrastructure Investments with a specific investment fund with significant exposure to renewable energy in the SA market. This is a relationship that dates back to one of the first round of REAP, where both Scatec and Standard were co-sponsors to one of the first projects that were connected to the network under the first bid REAP Round 1 procurement. So Lyra Energy Trading is a subsidiary of Lyra Energy. Lyra Energy Trading is the applicant for a trading license, and it's currently an exempt micro enterprise with the ambition to be a level 4 BEE certification at once trading commences. Mohammed, if I may hand over to you.
Thank you, Eben, and thank you for the opportunity to provide an overview on Lyra and Stanlib's partnership with Lyra Energy. Stanlib Infrastructure Investments is one of South Africa's leading infrastructure private equity investors. Stanlib manages 13 billion on behalf of South African pension funds. Our mandate is to invest in sustainable infrastructure projects that supports long-term economic growth and development. Through our investment in Lyra Energy, we are actively supporting South Africa's transition to a more diverse, reliable, and sustainable energy mix. Platforms such as Lyra Energy plays a key role in increasing energy generation capacity and improving energy security. We are also contributing to enhanced efficiency in the energy market by promoting greater competition, which over time supports more competitive and cost-reflective pricing. One of the exciting aspects of Lyra Energy for us is that it enables South African pension funds to invest directly in the private power sector, aligning investor interests with national infrastructure objectives. This approach allows local capital to be channeled into infrastructure projects while delivering long-term value for South African beneficiaries. Furthermore, by expanding energy generation capacity in South Africa, Lyra supports a goal of a more stable and secure power supply, which is critical to South Africa's economic resilience and sustainable growth. In light of these contributions, we are excited to be partnering with Lyra Energy on this initiative, and we respectfully request NERSA's support for Lyra Energy's application for an energy trading license. Thank you. Yeben.
Thank you, Mohammed. Maybe if we spend some time just revisiting or expanding on the rationale of Lyra Energy and the constitution of its partners. When we considered the structure and the format of Lyra Energy and subsequently Lyra Energy Trading, we did so in the context of something that would be fit for purpose for the future market design. What we considered as critical success factors was the ability to implement projects efficiently by removing friction of, I'm going to say, not only the development, but also the construction and the financing process, resulting ultimately in efficient pricing to prospective customers. Furthermore, we see this need of matching long-tenured fixed capital formation type projects with more variable short-term offtake requirements. And there's this critical bridge that needs to connect these two to form a financing funding solution that enables the implementation of this project at an efficient price. To this extent, we effectively constituted Lyra Energy to have certain pillars to enable the implementation of projects. The first one is having access to projects. The project or the generator on which the application is based is one that's owned by Lyra Energy. And then Lyra, through its affiliation with Scatec, has access to potential alternative generators. Generation is not limited to generators only owned by Lyra, but also there's flexibility to procure from independent and third-party owned generation. Having access to integrated IPP's capability further reduces implementation risk through minimizing interface issue, and then also contingent exposure to third-party suppliers and project counterparties. And then being able to deploy projects at utility scale further enhances the ability to offer competitive and efficient pricing. So Scatec has a track record as an industrial partner to Lyra of project implementation that goes back to the first round of REAP, as previously alluded to. And it's currently operating a significant generation base in South Africa on behalf of its own ownership, but also on behalf of third-party owned assets. And then there's some projects that's currently under construction. Having an operational base in country, as well as the corresponding, say, operational framework and IT infrastructure, does enable, I'm going to say, the integration with the future market, specifically the operations of the market operator and the software system operator, in a way that mitigates risk, enabling kind of a digital market management or aggregation management system to serve and support the aggregation of, and then ultimately the disaggregation of supplied power. Then something that we believe is valuable in the context of the development of the market, so having had experience or currently making experience in other markets that has gone through liberalization process. Here, there's a number of examples listed on the slide. It's also, with reference to Brazil, that was a newly generated or implemented generation asset under a, I'm going to say, unique contracting model where 60% of the generation capacity is committed on a long-term power purchase agreement, and then the balance is sold on a short to medium-term contracts through the merchant market. Then there's also experiences in the Philippines and Ukraine where existing assets have been kind of redeployed, or the production of existing assets in Ukraine and then specifically a fleet of hydropowers in Philippines are being deployed into the merchant market. Where in Philippines, we also have the experience of a trading desk with a joint venture partner. In Romania, Scatec has a project that's currently in structuring, with also a unique offtake structure, where it's got exposure to contracts of difference, and then the balance being sold in the day-ahead merchant market. We believe these experiences in implementing projects under these offtake scenarios, financing them, would support Lara in, I'm going to say, the implementation of its first project and also participation in the future market in South Africa. The fourth pillar, which we believe is important to support, I'm going to say, implementation of assets in a meaningful way, is having funded sponsors that enables, I'm going to say, efficient deployment of generation capacity, as well as the credit enhancement of the licensed trading entity. Having a credit enhanced licensed trading entity allows or supports the unlock of debt capacity at generator level, also supporting, I'm going to say, efficient pricing. Traders, by their very nature, are commonly thinly capitalized. Having access and exposure to parent company balance sheet support does enhance the reputation and, I'm going to say, the financial stability of this intermediary party. With respect to the process that Lara Energy Trading has undergone, we followed the regulated NERSA trading license application process, having commenced the process in November of last year, and then went through the requisite steps through public advertisements at local and national level, through both the applicant and then also NERSA. There's a round of clarifications that we received from NERSA, to which we responded to, and we also received the objection letter from Eskom, to which we responded in writing. And today we've got the public participation process. The project itself is fairly developed, and its implementation is contingent on, I'm going to say, the successful conclusion of this license application process. The transaction that we propose in the license application is between a generator that's located in the Free State, in Makwakwa, a local municipality, and an off-taker that's based in the city of Johannesburg in Gauteng. The generator has been registered with NERSA and has entered into a generator PPA with Lara Energy Trading, and Lara Energy Trading has also concluded a customer PPA with the end users. The project is a solar PV facility. It is currently in the Eskom budget code process. It has been for a while, and we have passed the design review approvals. We're awaiting the actual quotation, but have already commenced on the document suite with Eskom as counterpart. Since the submission of the application, Lara Energy Trading has advanced relationships with off-takers in other provinces and districts or municipalities than the off-taker of the application. To that extent, or that's the premise for the initial application of a national license for electricity trading. In terms of wheeling and tariffs, it's important to acknowledge that wheeling, which is the premise of this first project and its implementation, is done in accordance with Eskom's wheeling policies and procedures. And there it is important to acknowledge that wheeling does utilize the assets and infrastructure of Eskom, as well as other providers of network services, and that we're in agreement with the approved electricity regulation pricing policy that these costs need to be recovered. The tariff that has been offered is cost effective It's been disclosed to NERSA and it escalates at the National Consumer Price Index. The tariff structure does offer value to the customer, and it also recovers the generator's use of system charges. It makes economic sense within the context of the recently approved Eskom retail tariff structural adjustment. And then also, just back to the initial point, both the providers of network services and transmission and distribution is kept economically whole through the recovery of use of system charges. In terms of human resource capability, Lara Energy does have a dedicated team that not only supports the implementation of the first project, but also the cultivation of a pipeline. Some of these resources are dedicated to Lara Energy, and it cuts across, I'm going to say, the respective life stages of a project. And what's worth kind of recognizing here is also there's lived experience of other market liberalizations at both governance level and then also at risk mitigation and control level. That concludes the presentation. Maybe as a summary remark, we believe we've submitted an application that's consistent with requirements. It is aligned with the ambitions and objective of the Energy Regulation Act, and then it would support the development of the electricity supply industry in South Africa.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. We are going to then turn to the members of the regulator for the questions that they may have in getting clarity on the presentations, on the presentation and the application itself. Let me then ask the colleagues, Mr. Mkhize, as well as Madam Semane, to ask questions by show of hands, members. Mr. Mkhize.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to the presenters. Just on my side, I would just like to touch on three issues. Categories. One is on the broader issues of fairness. Because whenever we're talking of trading, especially in this instance, there's this whole issue of cherry picking and looking at profitable customers and leaving Eskom with a less financially viable customer classes. So to say, how do they aim to address that? What is their reflection on that? As well as, I would say, generally, a fair competition with Eskom on tariffs. And thirdly, is to say, to look at consultation with Eskom, if there's consultation with Eskom and other affected licenses regarding this application, if there was any kind of engagement, what concerns were there and what concerns, and if those concerns have been addressed, particularly when you look at the issue of these, when you look at the distributors, it's a question of overlapping jurisdiction around supply areas. And then on the other issue is a reflection that I just would request in terms of the fixed cost element, especially when one looks at infrastructure, how that in terms of trading that gets addressed if one look at issues of fixed costs and embedded subsidies. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I do have other questions as well, if you can note them down. We also received objections. It may well be concerns from Eskom. The they are in writing, so we will consider them as we are evaluating this application. So we would like to just get clarification from you as to how will your operations comply with the rules for licensable distribution areas of supply, particularly regarding overlapping supply areas. We understand that you are not a distributor and you are not requesting to be licensed as a distributor. However, the distributors, they also have supply areas, and you might also want to trade in those areas. How are you going to do that? Do you think that there is something that will prevent you from trading in the areas where the distributors are licensed in those areas? Do you see any obstacles in you entering those areas from a trading perspective? So I just want to understand, if so, how are you? Do you believe that it could be resolved? So that is the first question, and maybe just just on the issue of the concerns that were raised by Eskom, obviously, in the areas where Eskom is licensed. And in those areas, obviously, Eskom is supplying electricity within its existing license as a distributor. So it supplies in those areas. So how will your trading activities be or avoid, infringing on those areas? Or how will you ensure that you enter in those areas? I think it is the same question, but also asked differently, just so that you can be able to expatiate on the concerns that are raised by Eskom. Those are the questions from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and also to the committee member for the questions. Maybe to start with, I think there's a significant overlap with some of these questions and the objection that we did receive from Eskom. We have submitted a written response that's detailed in this regard to NERSA. I think getting the response to these questions, we would be highlighting some of the elements of that response. So maybe another statement before we get into the specific questions. So Lyra Energy Trading's license application is for a trading license, which is not dissimilar for the trading license that some of the other traders have applied, and that we also understand there's a number of other licenses in current application processing. Now, to the specific question and the broader, just going to Mr. Mkize's questions, I'm going to say there's three buckets. First one relates to the broader issue of fairness. Then the second one is a consultation with Eskom. And then I'm going to say the fixed cost element and trading. In terms of the broader issue of fairness, and I'm going to say that the specific reference of cherry picking of customers, here what we are observing is that from a customer or end user's perspective, there is a differentiation in the need of the product that some of these companies do require. It's largely premised on their decarbonization needs, ambitions, or sometimes requirements. Some of these companies do face existential risk if they cannot secure the retention of their market access by virtue of reducing scope 2 emissions, and that require green energy supply, which we understand or anticipate would shortly also be required where the environmental attribute is required to be matched to the specific generation profile. And this is kind of affecting customer behavior to the point where end users are launching procurement programs for specific energy supply, not only, I say, the profile of supply, but specifically the nature of the generation and its associated environmental attributes. So there is a fair and open procurement, I would say, development, which is effectively driven from end users' side, which creates a competitive framework during which Lara Energy effectively competes with other suppliers, be that other traders, even behind the meter type solutions, or utility, or I would say municipal distribution. We believe that's kind of in line with the ambitions of the ERA Act as amended, and we look forward to participate as a licensed trader in this market. Also recognizing that the utility has previously launched a pilot program to supply green energy at a premium to customers, and is also in the process of setting up a Eskom Green function with the ambition to be able to supply green energy. So we see, I would say, the evolution of the market as one that's going to be competitive, and there we would appreciate the opportunity to be able to compete for the benefit of serving customers, irrespective if the counterparts or the other competition is traders or the utility. Just from a tariff design perspective, we believe our tariff is compliant with the approved and regulated energy pricing policy. We've submitted our tariff to NERSA, and we would look forward to participate further on safe clarifications or questions on the specific design of the tariff. In terms of the question on consultation with Eskom, so Lara Energy and Lara Energy Trading has had kind of number of engagements with different functional departments in Eskom since 2023. I would say from the pricing side, the wheeling side, the pre-NTCSA, the current version of the NTCSA, the designated system and market operator to understand specifically some of the policies, the mechanisms, the mechanical parts, how it intends to work, data requirements, data portal requirements, forecasting needs, etc., as well as the grid access unit with respect to the budget quotation process. So we've had a constructive and positive working relationship with our Eskom counterparts, and then we, by participating in this license application process, we have this formal, I'm going to say, process that's facilitated by NERSA that solicits public comment, including the objection that received from Eskom. In terms of the fixed cost element, so I think there's two elements to that response. The first one is from a generator's perspective. There we sit with these significant capital investments for generating assets that require effectively very long-term funding solutions, where we need to match that with what's turning out to be shorter and shorter offtake ability on the other side. To match that, we need to effectively find a financing solution and a funding solution that allows us to still be efficient from relative to I would say regulated pricing from a price perspective. We do so by effectively amortizing the project's fixed cost over time and effectively taking volume and price risk on uncontracted capacity or volume in later years of the project's asset. So there the trader effectively sits with potential risk from its own fixed cost component. Now, the view is that in a regulated price environment where network charges are regulated, if the charge is fairly computed, and I'm going to say the regulation that it's approved by the regulator, that is the appropriate mechanism to recover fixed costs. And the recent development and approval with respect to the energy ESCOM lethal tariff structural adjustment is the first phase of effectively, I'm going to say, moving to a cost-reflective cost structure as informed by a cost of service study by the utility. So on the network operator side, we see that the current tariff structure, which also informs generation wheeling credit, is based on, I'm going to say, the cost to serve the demand customer base in South Africa. Then, in terms of the questions raised by the chair, and this speaks specifically to granting of licenses and whether certain areas are infringed, areas of supply or rights under licenses are infringed. When we conducted our legal review of, I'm going to say, regulations as well as the licenses, our conclusion is that the granting of NERSA by NERSA of the license to Lara Energy Trading would not infringe on the rights of, I'm going to say, distributors in specific areas. It would also not infringe on the rights of other licensed traders, the NTCSA being one of them. And here I think it's important to differentiate between the activities of distribution and the buying and selling of electricity. The business of Lara Energy Trading is the buying and selling of electricity while using the concept of wheeling for the actual delivery. And the wheeling framework allows for the compensation of the respective network operator for its the use of its infrastructure. In terms of the last question, with respect to trading activities, we see that our interpretation is that it's not limited to specific, or exclusivity is not limited to specific areas or jurisdictions, and that in line with the ERA, there is a regulatory and legal framework that supports competition between prospective sellers of electricity to end users.
All right. Are you done with the responses?
I am done with the responses, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mkiza, any follow-up questions, or Madam Samane, any follow-up questions? Otherwise, I think if there's anything else, as they indicated, it will be submitted in writing.
I'm covered by that aspect, Chairperson, that whatever is left, they will provide by way of a written submission. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I would like to thank Lara Trading for your presentation, and also just to give you the 7 days for you to then supplement your responses insofar as the objections and concerns were raised by ESCOM with regards to trading in its areas. Thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate the responses that you provided.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the Electricity Subcommittee.
Thank you very much. We move on, colleagues, to take a presentation from Energy Market SA Pty Ltd. We've got Mkondeleli Legalagala, Karen Potgieter, and David McDonald. Please, may you please activate your cameras? May you please activate your cameras? Energy Market SA.
Madam Chair, my camera is activated. I'm not sure if you can see me.
Yes, I can see David McDonald, and I would like please to proceed to allowing you to take the oath. I don't know who is first here.
I'll be taking the oath today.
Thank you very much. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to provide to this panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do. Sorry, no, we've got some sound issues on my side.
May you please resolve them, because it's obviously going to affect the quality of the recording.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. All right, please state your name and your designation at Energy Market SA for the
My
record.
name is David McDonald, and I am acting as a director for Energy Market SA.
Thank you very much. Are you going to be the only presenter, or do you have other colleagues that are going to present?
I'll be the only presenter today.
All right, thank you very much. You may then start with your presentation.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon, regulatory members, Madam Chair, and attendees. Thank you for affording myself the time today to present Energy Market SA's application for a national trading license, and I thank you for your time. So just as a quick introduction as the way to our agenda, today I'm going to be talking about who Energy Market SA is, what our offering is in the market, the basics behind our business model, how we have complied with the license requirements to date, and I'll just touch on why we feel that trading is critical, with particular reference to the market reforms. So who is Energy Market SA? Energy Market SA is an electricity trading company. We are committed to transforming the South African power landscape by particularly promoting cleaner, greener, and more affordable energy. Our mission is to make renewable energy accessible and affordable specifically to businesses that drive the South African economy while supporting the country's energy future. Energy Market SA is a trading entity that will be able to service customers by aggregating demand and profile engineering to supply customers from different renewable energy sources. We are a wholly owned subsidiary of Solar Africa Energy. We therefore leverage decades of industry expertise and strategic partnerships and have a strong renewable energy footprint, which allows us to essentially unlock flexible energy solutions for businesses across the country. Just to touch a little bit more on who Solar Africa is, they are a diversified energy company and a registered IPP. They're currently supplying a large number of agricultural, commercial, and industrial clients with both on-site generation solutions and wheeled energy. And I think one of the larger flagship projects is a utility scale project in the Northern Cape, which is currently under construction with phase 1 of 340 megawatts, which ultimately will be spanning to a gigawatt, just to name a few of their sites. So what is Energy Market SA's offering? Right? So we intend to provide a diversified mix of renewable energy solutions that is designed to support South Africa's energy transition. I think the word mix of renewable energy solutions is really important here, as our parent company, Solar Africa, only has a mandate to develop solar power, having had years of experience with regards to customer negotiations. It's evident that customers are requiring a mix of energy these days in order to meet their decarbonization goals, their level of energy penetration, and essentially just to control the costs, to remain competitive in both the local market and international markets. How does Energy Market plan to do this? We plan to engage in trading, offering flexible power solutions. So the word flexible, I think, is very critical there. IPPs traditionally will be looking for longer term offtakes in order to secure funding to be able to make those projects viable. We see that the role of us as a trader here will be buying long and selling short, essentially allowing our customers super flexible contractual terms and an ability to match both consumption with production. We'll be doing that through the current framework of wheeling. And in future, once we have a license, we have an intention to implement an aggregation model that combines both trading and wheeling and local solar farm initiatives, particularly to bring cheaper, cleaner, green energy to the rural agricultural communities. What we've seen in the market space is the smaller user is not getting access to the larger IPPs, either through diversification of their consumption or varying consumption, unable to put down guarantees. There's a number of reasons, and I think the trading companies are well set to be able to bridge that gap. And I do believe that the smaller entities in South Africa are able to drive economic growth and meet their decarbonization targets, through cleaner, greener energy. Our operational footprint to date, so we've secured customer power purchase agreements in Gauteng, KZN, Limpopo, and the Western Cape. We are actively in negotiations with other customers in additional provinces and additional trading zones as part of our future growth strategy, and hence why we've applied for a national trading license. Our strategic advantages, again, kind of hopping on the Solar Africa energy connection, we have access to technical, financial, and regulatory expertise. We have access to utility scale projects that are already under construction, and we're able to leverage the parent company's existing footprint and balance sheet relationships in the market to be able to procure further renewable energy from reputable energy power producers, being able to provide our smaller customers and our aggregated customers peace of mind as off-takers. So what's the basics behind our business model? As an electricity trader, we'll be purchasing electrons at volume from IPPs, so the economic, to be able to leverage the economies of scale there. And in future, we'll be looking to purchase from other traders. We'll be selling to our diversified client base, particularly the behind-the-meter customer base of Solar Africa as it stands, and further customers that Solar Africa is not mandated to target, and tailoring those electricity volumes and contract durations, and particularly load profile in accordance with customer needs. We also have the potential to trade on future day-ahead markets and other markets as planned in the multi-market model, which I think is important to provide the needed liquidity and supply in our currently constrained ESI. We are currently an exempt micro-enterprise, and we are fully compliant with BBBEE legislation and codes. The current transaction that we've got in place as part of our application involves supply from an IPP and sales to a customer at various sites, and we'll be doing so under the existing wheeling frameworks provided by NTSA and Eskom. And it's worth noting that our current GPPA is from our Sun Central plant, Solar Africa Sun Central plant, which currently has a use of system agreement with Eskom. I think just as the role of a trader, and I'll touch on it in a later slide with regards to the ERA and the reform. But Solar Africa, Energy Market SA, feel that the role of electricity traders is critical to the reform, right? It aligns with what has been ratified at Parliament to increase competitive nature of the market and increase the efficiency of our electrical supply and demand. And in order to be doing that, I think electricity traders will be playing a significant role with regards to balancing of that electricity market. So how have we complied with our licensing requirements to date? So as per NERSA's regulations and process, we have submitted and lodged our application on the 17th of October. We've gone through the public participation process, and we've received the objection period ended on the 23rd of April. And here we are today at the public hearing. It's worth noting that during that objection period, we received no objections. We have recently obviously received the Eskom objections, albeit outside of the objection period. We have signed a GPPA with a registered IPP. We have numerous CPPAs with customers, which has obviously all been provided to Eskom on a redacted basis. We have shown proof of funding. We have provided extensive information on our business models and future strategies. And we are planning our current transactions will be done through the existing wheeling arrangements that are in place. And we have obviously also provided the financial model that demonstrates both viability and sustainability of our trading entity, but more so the benefits to our customers, which is at the forefront of our vision, right? Important for us to be able to provide savings to our customers, which we believe is going to create and drive economic growth in South Africa. So the role of the trader in the role of trading in our electricity supply industry. Again, I've touched on this already, but we feel that it plays an extremely critical role in the reformed market. And Energy Market SA is set up to fulfill many of these roles, right? Potentially balancing and ancillary services to our system operators, balancing services to other balanced responsible parties, contracting with multiple IPPs, directly and reducing the burden from both Eskom and the state to procure renewable energy through further of the public participation rounds. We can provide hedging opportunities to limit customer exposures in the electricity price and supply market. Customers are also able to benefit from lower prices and access renewable energy supply. Again, as I mentioned, increasing opportunity for economic growth, which I believe, the ERA, it's one of the critical outcomes of the ERA is to provide choice to the customer. And then IPPs benefit by having an alternative off-taker, which I think, has been discussed at length, both by us and other participants or other applications. If I move on to the legislative change and market reforms, ERA reforms enable customer choice, and I think most importantly here, require non-discriminatory access to the transmission and distribution grids. Right? So Energy Market, our opinion is that we welcome NERSA's feedback on this, but Energy Market should be given access to the transmission and distribution grids in alignment with other trading licenses that have been issued in the past. We welcome NERSA's trading license decisions over the past 15 years, and just to note that we are pro a competitive regulation market. That's it from us.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I would like now to turn to the members to ask questions of clarity on the presentation. By show of hands, members, if you do have questions from your side, I can start from my side. Just to understand in terms of the regions that you mentioned, where you intend to be active in terms of the trading activities. How are you going to meet the needs in those markets? I just want to understand your ability to supply in those areas. Are you going to, or have you secured the electrons to be able to commence your trading in those areas? Are you going to commence those trading at the same time, or it's going to be something that is going to be done in phases depending on the contracts that you secure with the IPPs? I just want to find out in terms of those areas that you have mentioned. And also, if you can just give us a sense of the timing of your trading activities. When do you intend to commence your trading activities? We do want to just get an understanding on the timing of your trading activities. When you talk about the mix of renewable energy solutions, what do you mean by that? If you can please touch on those 3 questions. Mr. Mkhize, you had your hand up. You may go ahead.
Yeah, I think for Master Chairperson, I'm partly covered in terms of the timing. I note there are issues of cherry picking that will also apply here. But from my side, I note that you are going to respond to the concerns that were raised by ESCOM, and I think it would be appreciated if that can be shared with us. I think we need it to be shared with us, and therefore comprehensively also augment your submission. I'll stop there, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. You may then respond to the questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, regulatory members. So if we dive straight into question 1 with regards to region and our ability to supply and what other regions will we be targeting. So at this stage, our initial intention is to only do our first trade as per our application. That first trade the supply will be coming out of the Northern Cape, and our off-taker is located. It actually has a portfolio of companies across the country, but the specific site that we have earmarked is in Gauteng. So essentially, that's our initial trade. How we plan to grow into future regions and secure our supply there. We are in negotiations with multiple IPPs across the country, with plants located in and around most of these regions, be it solar power or wind. As one of the other applicants had mentioned previously, access to hydro plants, as an example, is very, very scarce at this stage, but it's definitely on our roadmap for the future. We want to be able to supply nationally. Our intentions are to obviously balance our production with our consumption. I think that's one of the key benefits of a trader and a key benefit of our actual customer base, considering that our bread and butter comes from both the commercial, industrial, and our agricultural base. We have a diverse profile of consumption, right? So we have a unique ability to be able to match production with consumption and essentially match production with localized consumption. As I mentioned, we've got aggregation projects in the wings whereby we will be combining both wheeling, trading, and on-site solutions. So essentially being able to match our supply within a region to a customer base is part of our strategic growth and actually part of one of our strategic benefits. I don't know if that answers the Chair's first question. If you would like me to elaborate further.
No, I think that is in order. You may proceed to the other questions. Thanks.
Question 2 was with regards to timing of our trading. So essentially, we have secured our off-taker and we've secured our generating site. Our generation site is currently under construction. And so essentially, as and when we are able to receive our trading license, we would then fall in line with the construction schedule, which is at this point in time scheduled to come online in the second half of 2026. So given we are granted a license, more than likely our first trade will happen on the back end of 2026. Just to clarify, that would be from an ESCOM to ESCOM customer, purely within the current wheeling construct. With regards to question 3, mix of renewable energy supply, I touched on this slightly earlier, but essentially our parent company only has a mandate to develop solar. Our customers are obviously looking for 100% of their consumption to be as green as far as possible, to obviously meet their decarbonisation targets, to be able to compete in international markets, to comply with international regulations. And essentially, for enable us to do that, we need to have a mix of renewable energies, be that solar and BESS, be that wind, be that hydro plant, and I think in future, obviously, potentially maybe hydrogen. Our current mandate is green energy. So since our inception as a parent company, we've been on the forefront of trying to push the boundaries on new products in the market. So from a growth perspective, we are looking at hydrogen, and we are looking at an efficient electricity sector, if you want to call that, a supply industry, where we're able to have this mix of energy. With regards to question 4 from Mr. Mkhize, with regards to the Eskom objections, so I'd just like to formally mention it that we've received Eskom's notes or comments for an objection. We have taken under the advisement. Our team is working on responding in full in writing. Unfortunately, we'd have liked to have responded already, but those objections only came a week ago. So we do intend within the next 7 days to respond fully in writing. However, that being said, with regards to cherry picking, our intention, well, let me say, we are firm believers that Eskom are critical to the sustainability of the electricity supply industry in South Africa, right? Be it through transmission networks, be it through a distribution, be it through generation, right? And I think all applicants will feel the same, and all market participants will feel the same. We are pro the new ERA. We are pro competition. We fully have our customers' benefits at heart. We want to be able to pass on that savings. However, we know we cannot do so in a market that is not sustainable. So the Electricity Act allows for distributors and the NTSC to be able to recover these costs on a cost-reflective basis, right? There's nothing stopping these participants to apply to NERSA to be able to put in additional subsidies if so required. And I believe if we look at the retail tariff plan, that has been the start, right? And we welcome that, right? Anything that's going to be able to create a competitive market that allows the end user choice, right? Which essentially allows for economic growth, which benefits everybody on this call and beyond. So that's EMSA's current position, but we will definitely respond fully in writing to Eskom's objections, of which cherry picking, I believe, was one of them. Is there any other questions that we haven't addressed? Looking at my team, I don't believe there is.
I think you've covered all the questions, but maybe I can just add one more question that you which relates to the points that you mentioned in your presentation, one of them being the emphasis on getting access to the transmission and the network, the transmission and the distribution grid. May I understand whether already you have have some agreements for you to be able to access these essential network facilities for you to be able to trade? Are there any challenges? Why are you emphasizing the importance of getting access to the transmission as well as the distribution grid? I understand that it is important for trading, but I would like to understand then whether you have any sort of agreements for you to be able, or do you have any challenges in accessing those grids?
Okay. So I think I could just clarify our stance on that. So when stipulating we would like access to the transmission and distribution grids, it is purely from a role of a trader, right, within the current frameworks, as other licensees have already been given access. So we're asking for non-discriminatory access, essentially. However, in saying that, we do have, through the IPP, we have access to that grid through the IPP's DECOSA with Eskom. There's obviously, at this current stage within the municipalities, the distribution areas, there's a massive pushback with regards to that. I know there's a lot of work that's gone underway, and a lot of these distributors and municipalities are engaging with yourselves to be able to put these frameworks in place to protect their current revenue streams, and to make this a fair and provide choice through to the customer. So I think we have not had challenges, but essentially the challenges are the same for everybody. So it's not as if we have been discriminated against as EMSA ourselves, but I do feel that essentially Eskom have made this tough for everybody, for obvious reasons. Not necessarily that they're breaking the rules, they're just making these hoops harder to jump through. The process is slower, which is difficult to communicate through to both funders and the end users, right? And I think the more of these trading licenses we have, and the more the competitive market becomes, and the more this becomes a market norm, the smoother the process. So hence why that statement to say, that we should be given fair and free access to these grids, not necessarily physical access, but through the given and governed frameworks.
All right, thank you very much. We don't have any further questions, but we look forward to your written responses, particularly to some of the questions posed by Mr. Mkhize and pertaining to the consultations with Eskom, with the cherry picking of customers, your elaboration, as you indicated, that these are some of the concerns raised by Eskom in its objection. So we look forward to receiving your written response to these questions in the next 7 days. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Okay. All right, now we are going to take a presentation from the last presenter, and the applicant being Solar Trade Co. Pty Ltd. So that is the last presenter of the day.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I just cannot. Yeah, I can see you now. All right. I trust that you are alone in terms of giving us your presentation.
Yes,
do you have any
Madam
objections?
Chair, through you, if I could just ask that Shirley Savoldi is also sworn in, and she might be asking some of the potential technical questions at the end of the presentation. So if I could ask that she is sworn in with me, please.
Not a problem. Okay, we'll do that. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you are going to provide to the panel is the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you. May you please may you please state your name and your designation at Solar Trade Co?
My name is Simon Hoare. I am the founder and executive director of Solar Group and Solar Trade Co.
Thank you very much. May I also get your colleague to activate her camera? Your colleague?
My camera is activated. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you now. May you please, thank you. May you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly declare that the evidence you're going to provide to this panel will be the truth and the whole truth?
I do.
Thank you. May you then state your name and your designation at Solar Trade Co?
My name is Shirley Salvoldi, and I'm a consultant to Solar Tradeco. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. You may then start with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you see my presentation?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, good afternoon to you, and good afternoon to everybody on the ELS observers. I'm hoping everyone's still here and awake because I'm the last one, so I will try and stick to my time. My name is Simon Hoare. I am the founder and the executive director of the Solar Group, and I'm here today representing Solar Tradeco in our application for an import and export license through NERSA, which is indirectly linked to our application to become a market participant in SAP. I'm going to talk very briefly just about the Solar Group, give you some history about who we are. Then I'm going to chat about SAP and why we want to join SAP. We're going to talk about the PV generator details, so where the power is coming from and that I'd like to trade to SAP. And then we'll go on to a summary of the approval request to NERSA, and then we'll take any key comments post that. So just to touch on Solar Group, I can start at the bottom. We're a fully South African, 100% South African owned company. We have 130 permanent staff. We have 500 on-site contract workers on our project sites. We have a long pipeline of development. So we have 2,750 megawatts of projects in the development stage. We have deployed just over 10 billion rands worth of capital, and that's to close 600 megawatts worth of assets. These are solar generator assets. And of those 600 megawatts, we have currently 385 megawatts, which are actually operational and wheeling energy in South Africa. We're a fully integrated IPP, so we project develop ourselves, we project finance our own projects, we engineer, design in-house, and we operate and maintain. So everything happens in a one-stop shop, and we are fully South African, proudly South African company. In terms of our history, I'm not going to go through this whole slide, it's too busy, but I think we've been in the energy sector for almost 2 decades now. We started in 2008. We then established the South African PV Industry Association. So we were the founding member and we wrote the constitution. We then went on to participate in REAP. So we bid in numerous REAP rounds, were successful in numerous REAP rounds until around 2018. And then we pivoted our business to focus mainly just on corporate PPAs. And those PPAs were really restricted at that point in time to 1 megawatt projects on premises or rooftop. We raised 600 million rand in a fund called Orionis, which we could fully deployed into those first projects. And post the amendment to legislation of the ERA Schedule 2, we were able to scale up that business significantly around 2019, where we were given the first major wheeling award in South Africa with Amazon Web Services. That project has been operational now since 2021. So we've been wheeling power in South Africa for 4 years. In fact, we currently are the only company in South Africa to actually be wheeling physical electrons in the country. There are other projects obviously coming, but we still pride ourselves to be the first. And we've grown that business up to above 300 megawatts now of operational wheeling projects within South Africa. Okay, so why SAP? Why do we want to join SAP? SAP is very much aligned to our core purpose. The Solar Group core purpose is to help transform Africa through delivery of affordable clean energy. And as you can see from the slide, the SAP's objective is to provide the least cost, environmentally friendly energy and increase accessibility. So that aligns very much with the Solar Group objective. SAP's also old. It's been around since August 1995. It is made up of SADC countries. We're obviously one of the major participants in SAP. And over those 30 years, I think it has gained in importance, but we believe needs a serious injection of focus to really help grow competitive markets in South Africa. It's headquartered in Harare, Zimbabwe, so it's centrally located. SAP's basically made up of a couple of different types of member categories. There's 12 founding utilities from different countries across the SADC, and these are operating members. and those are mainly national utilities with interconnectors linked. For example, ESCO, ZESCO, EBC Botswana, and others. And then there are non-operating members. These are utilities not yet interconnected, and these are, for example, countries like Angola and Malawi. Then there's a category for market participants, which is the category that the Solar Tradeco has applied for with SAP. And we believe this is an incredibly important category to catalyze the much needed growth now in what SAP has done over the last 30 years to create a competitive and transparent energy market on a regional basis. And so why is it so important to grow these market participants? Well, there are 5 main reasons, and I think the first presenter mentioned most of these as well, James. The first is enhanced market competition. So the more participants, the lower the prices, the greater the competition, and that reduces power costs, increases market efficiency, and that benefits consumers and businesses. The second, it increases supply diversity. So new producers introduce diverse energy sources. SAP at the moment is mainly hydro and thermal coal. And so opening up to new producers, particularly like our company with renewable energy sources, boosts sustainability and also supports South Africa's own green energy goals, because we can then basically have another off-take market to invest in South Africa and export. It strengthens grid stability. So obviously the larger the market, the more participants, the more connections are going to be needed. That creates greater resilience. It creates the need for investment. And that investment has already started. I believe there's a $1.5 billion transmission infrastructure financing facility in place for SAP. And they're looking at expanding particularly how the grids connect and the interconnectors, which are currently have high traffic volumes. Obviously, encouraging this investment is through accessible competitive energy markets. They both encourage local and international investment, and that's then promotes infrastructure and technology, which fuel regional development. And the last and most important one is that SADC, meeting growing demand, the SADC economy and population is growing. The demand for reliable, affordable energy continues to rise, and SAP can facilitate this transition. And I've just been back from Zambia, and let me tell you, we thought load shedding was bad here in South Africa. They were being load shed 17 hours a day, and I think they've got that down to about 10, but they are in serious trouble. And so I think the need for power in these Southern African markets cannot be over accentuated. It's very, very important that we also try and support to grow the SADC energy market we have from South Africa. So how do you become a member of SAP? Well, there's 4 different categories the Solar Tradeco have to tick in order to become a member. We have been doing this for now a year, so we've gone through a very rigorous process with SAP. The first box that you have to tick is that you need to operate in contract generation capacity or a load of at least 5 megawatts that is physically connected to the SAP grid. In this case, SAP grid is actually also an ESCOM grid, because ESCOM is an operator of SAP, and it must be at a voltage level of at least 110 kV. We have ticked that box. Our project ticks it. Next box is that it must not be tied to a single buyer contract, and this also is ticked in terms of our generator, so I'll describe that a bit more in a sec. But we are essentially a multi-buyer project. And then you must have the capability of balancing agreed schedules, or must have a contract for balancing agreed schedules with SAP operating member. And that's obviously a very big focus. Solar has a draft balancing agreement from the NTCSA. We have a letter of support for this project from the NTCSA, both for the project and for the application of to SAP and import-export license. Obviously, the main outstanding item, as has been alluded to before by Madam Chair, is the balancing agreement. And there is urgency required and focus required on all parties, both the market participants that would like to enter SAP, NTCSA, and also facilitation by NERSA to make these agreements effective from the current draft forms. The last box is that we must comply with respective national legislation that's applicable to all countries that have prospective SAP membership. And that's obviously the purpose of this presentation today in terms of our export and import license application to NERSA. So onto the generator. I mean, it's always nice to talk about real things, and I kind of feel like sometimes we get stuck in the theory and the licensing, but this is the real project. So this is a 195 megawatt DC project in the Free State. It is a generator which we're going to choose to ship some power to SAP. That generator can almost cover 20% of an entire stage of load shedding. It can produce 390,000 megawatts hours of power a year, which in South Africa roughly equates to 390,000 tons of CO2 offset per year. And that is roughly equivalent to 6.5 million trees growing for a decade. It's an incredible amount of clean power. It is ready to go. The COD of this project is scheduled for September, October this year. If things go well with the retake of Eskom, but we're basically now in the commissioning phase of the project with all mechanical works complete and Eskom grid connection built. I believe the puck closure will happen tomorrow. The majority of the power is for South African buyers, so it's still a very local project, but we've been able to allocate 5 megawatts and even up to potentially 52 megawatts, which we can trade to the SAP market. In terms of the local spending of the project, we have exceeded our target there. We've spent 312 million rand to date on mainly local SMEs. That's for balance of plant, security, transport, plant hire, earthworks. In terms of the actual local workforce, 100% South African employed. Of that, 80% male, 20% female. We would like to get the female portion up. We're working on that. We'd like to balance it more. At least we got a good result in terms of youth employment. We've employed up to 50%, almost up to 50% of the project were youth, and the total at peak construction was 500 employees. The components of the plants, a lot of them are imported, but the balance of local content is still 60% South African. So the 40% imported is actually becoming more and more cost effective, and that's why those numbers are starting to swing. There are 44,000 odd tracker foundations in place. We've got almost 3,000 plus trackers. Over 330,000 PV modules have been installed, and we've got 40 inverter transformer stations ready to go. And this is just a fun picture of the project. We've installed the last panel on the 19th of February 2025. And yeah, we're hoping these summer clouds in the Free State are now going to be shipped off and we get some nice clear winter weather, which I believe is currently the case on the site. So in summary, what is the motivation to join, to have this approved today by NERSA? I think we have been through a very rigorous application process that has taken almost 12 months now, both with SAP and NERSA. We've had multiple meetings with NERSA. We've had multiple meetings with the NTC ESA. We believe that approving this will be a very big progress step forward towards competitive markets. And I think every speaker before me mentioned that. That is also enshrined in the latest era. And even in licenses that NTCA holds. But improving this import and export license facilitates the power to trading onto SAP, and it's a very positive step in enabling that competitive regional market. It also unlocks private investment. Obviously, the more competitive markets we have with the correct market codes and rules, the larger the ability to provide an offtake for these projects, like the one behind me. And that basically allows more significant investment both within South Africa, but also in the SADC region. So I think some clarifications maybe just before the questions. What are the reasons? I think I've made that very clear why we would like to become a SAP member and ask NERSA to approve our import-export license. Essentially, our focus is to export power initially into the day-ahead market and to SAP. We have the power, it's available, and this power can be released as soon as October this year. The tariff is determined by a market supply-demand model, which is a very good and competitive way to establish a tariff. So no need for regulation. It is also all the wheeling charges. This is a big question. I think a lot of people get a bit confused by what happens with these wheeling charges and subsidies. Well, from our understanding and our discussion with the NTCSA, we have assigned to COSA all the wheeling charges and the connection charges are paid for and covered right up to the border of South Africa. And then SAP will regulate charges over the interconnector and within SAP itself. And so there should be no leakage of charges. The utility should be made whole, which is actually the whole premise on how SAP is originally founded. Do we need a balancing agreement? Yes, we do. It's a key CP to become a SAP member, and we will have to have a balancing agreement. We understand that. We are willing to work with all parties to make sure that balancing agreement can become effective. As I said, we have the draft, but there is a big focus, I think, on everybody that wants to become a member, including the members which are already market participants to have this balancing agreement made effective and sorted out. So I would have, in terms of an action, in terms of a focus, if that was one, I would say that's probably the biggest in order to enable this to happen. And the timing and the effectiveness, I think, again, we'd like to work together. So I think my point is we are ready to go. I think we can work together with NERSA and with particularly NTCSA to get the balancing agreement in place. But I believe if we have that in place, that is really the final CP, along with this import and export license, to allow us then to become a member of SAP and start trading. Madam Chair, that is actually the end of my presentation. I made it hopefully short and sweet. I'm now open to questions, and Shirley is also on standby to take questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want to check if the members have any questions of clarity. You may close your presentation for now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Members, by show of hands, if you have any questions. Mr. Mkhize?
Yes, I'm likely to cover, Chairperson, because it's a similar concern to the previous presenter, which I think that in terms of the submission, might just be able to assist us to augment the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Just to understand the outcome of your application with SAP, I don't think you've touched on it, or I missed it. May you please just indicate what is the status of your application with SAP for being a market participant? May you just brief us on the status and what was the response from their side with regards to your application there? And the second thing that I just want to find out is the draft balancing agreement. When are you expecting this agreement to be finalized? The agreement with the NTCSA for the balancing. I think in terms of your plans, the timing of the project, and also just commencing with your export-import activities, may you please just indicate what is the timing that you are looking at, and what are some of the critical steps or stages that you are aiming for before you commence with your activities? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I got those questions. On the first one, the SAP application. We have received a letter from SAP, and they have confirmed that our application is sufficient to be processed. The only outstanding item of that application is the import-export license from NERSA. So I think as soon as we have that import-export license from NERSA, we have been told that they are able to process our application within 3 months of receiving the import-export license. In terms of the question 2, which is the draft balancing agreement, the timing, that is a good question. I think that would be better directed towards the NTCSA. I believe that the draft agreement, from our perspective, the draft agreement holds the main terms that are required to enter a balancing agreement. I think most of the terms we feel reasonable. There are some details we would need to iron out, but we would need to obviously focus on making those effective. So I think that would, once we have this import-export license from NERSA, the next step would obviously then be to focus on that balancing agreement with the NTCSA, and then obviously the SAP application processing. I believe the SAP application processing can still happen and have the balancing agreement as a condition precedent to the application being effective. In terms of the timing of the project, the official COD of the project contracted is October 9th, 2025. And we, obviously after that date, we would be at an opportunity cost if we weren't able to export power to SAP, because we have allocated some of this energy to SAP. And so we are aiming to try and achieve that date, October 9th, and then to be able to wheel power to SAP thereafter. I think initially that power portion will probably be quite small, but we can grow that as we need to. Madam Chair, those are your 3 questions. I think in terms of Mr. Mkhize's questions, I don't know if they could maybe be specifically articulated. Otherwise, I can in general talk to some.
Mr. Mkhize, are you? Is there any specific question that you can put so that it is clear and then it can be responded to? Thanks. Mr. Mkhize, do you have any specific question?
Yes. From my side, yes, I've been involved. I didn't know, maybe if I missed it in terms of their engagement with ESCOM prior to this presentation and the issues at hand, as well as their experience in trading, or they are just because I appreciate them being involved in the upstream in terms of generation, but not on the trading side. Just want to get that clarity. Thank you.
Okay. NTCSA engagement question 1 there. I think we've had extensive engagements with NTCSA. We had a long meeting discussing our project. They also acknowledged that the project obviously has advanced. The grid connection is actually physically built. We have a decoder in place. So the charges, reading charges, connection charges, etc., have actually been paid for and are contracted for at least. And so ESCO, as I said, NTCSA should be covered right up to the border of South Africa. I think they have made it clear that the balancing agreement is something which needs to be worked on together, and that was in their comments. They did send through a list of comments which I think were quite generic, but I have responded in detail to those to NERSA. I think on behalf of the solar group, I mean, we absolutely are open to work with the NTCSA to get the balancing agreement in place and sorted out. So I can commit our company to making sure that happens, and I believe that is the very next step that is required. We would have to update our decoder as well to include the portion of power to SAP, but we'd obviously only do that once we become a member. But that really is the 2 outstanding items. NTCSA has issued a formal letter to us of support. And I did actually put that in our application. And then in terms of experience, yeah, I mean, our company is the most experienced company in South Africa from a wheeling perspective. So as I presented, we have projects. We're the only projects actually currently operational wheeling power, and those are to private buyers. So it is obviously there's a very similar concept. I mean, the trading part. I think our first step in trading really is to actually trade into the day-ahead market and to access SAP. At the moment, we don't see much difference in what we're doing already with wheeling power to our own private end corporate customers, and so the trading to SAP on the day-ahead market is something that we believe is really what the definition of trading actually, and I think that is the thing that we would like to start with Solar Tradeco. So that would be the first step in order to start that actual trading, which is on a day-ahead basis. I don't know, maybe I can bring in Shirley now. Shirley, I don't know if you want to maybe just comment on anything with regard to fees or anything leakage with ESCOM in terms of recovery of those fees. I think that is quite a big question which was asked prior. So I don't know if that's something you want to just clarify.
Chair, with your permission.
Yes, you may proceed. Thanks.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Chair and regulator members and the public. I think there's been some questions raised around, for example, contribution to subsidies on some of the earlier questions. And I think it's important to note that per the codes, exporters are treated as generators. They would be subject to the use of system charges up to the border. Importers are treated as loads, and they would be subject to all the use of system charges plus contributions to subsidies as per the regulated tariffs. And this is pretty well described in the codes. So it's just that there cannot be any avoidance of a contribution to subsidies. All users of the grid must pay fair use of system charges. So I think that concern that has been raised a number of times, I don't think is a concern, because this does sit within the ambit of NERSA and NERSA approval, and to ensure that there's no party that uses the South African grid can avoid making a fair contribution or causing additional costs for South African consumers. So I just wanted to make that as a comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Shirley. Madam Chair, I think that is the. I don't know if there are any other particular questions you would like to ask, but I think those were I did cover the ones Mr. McKeesby asked.
There are no further questions. I think you've covered all the questions that we have asked. Unless you've got a final comment, and then we will do our final remarks.
No, I think, well, just to say that it's very exciting. I mean, I think everybody that's contributed and also with your electricity committee, I think that it's a very exciting step, these competitive energy markets. And I think, where we can promote the competitiveness and the entry to these markets on a regional and a local basis, it will make a significant difference to investment in the country and also competitiveness and access to electricity, which is obviously critical. But that's my final comment. But thank you for the time. I really appreciate it. And on behalf of Solar Group, we also hope that we can get an approval on our license. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the presentation from Solar Tradeco. We thank you for your time. This is the last presenter of the day. I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the presenters that made their presentations today, and that is Npower Trading, Lyra Energy Trading, Energy Market SA, and the last one, Solar Tradeco. We thank you very much for your time, and I would like to also thank all the members of the energy regulator that participated in today's hearing, as well as the staff of the regulator that made this hearing possible today. And I also want to thank the observers who have shown interest in NERSA's business and also the fairness of the proceedings today. We thank you all for taking the time to attend this hearing. We have now come to the end of the hearing, and we are going to consider all of the information that we received, including written comments and as well as some of the objections. And we're also looking forward to the presenters that undertook to supplement their responses in writing in the next 7 days, and we would encourage you that you do so even before the 7 days, so that you enable us to properly consider that information before we take a decision and finalize our analysis. We thank you all, and the hearing is now closed. Have a great afternoon further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Bye.
Thank you, Jefferson.
Thank
Thanks
you.
all. Cheers.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you so much, Chair. Bye-bye.